My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 85 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings plays. But before I do, let's look at the wild success that our premium members have been having. They have put up over $400,000 in DraftKings fantasy winnings over the last couple of months. It is absolutely astonishing what our premium member community has been able to do. And they have access to all of our tools, all of our insight, and everything else with their premium membership. If you want to join them, you can become a premium member at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top, and you're going to unlock a whole world of content. If we come here, you're going to see there's 8 analysts. If we go to tools, you're going to see all the tools we offer. If you go to daily fantasy, you're going to see our DraftKings plays, the lineup optimizer, FanDuel content, and prop-based DFS as well. As far as DraftKings is concerned, you're going to get our breakdowns of who should be in your lineup, who should not be in your lineup. This cheat sheet will be populated every Friday afternoon after the weigh-ins with the ownership projections, the scoring projections, and the leverage plays. And then we rank every single fighter by their salary for when you're building a lineup. We are also going to have the DraftKings Optimizer. This optimizer will build lineups for you. It'll build up to 150 lineups for you, and it will be preloaded with those projections, and those projections are literally the best in the game. These are the UFC 297 numbers. We had a 3.51% margin of error. The next closest was 3.65, and that doesn't sound like a big deal, but those couple of tiny percentage points are the difference between some of these massive winning tickets and not winning. So unlock everything that you'll need to build a winning DraftKings fantasy lineup now at WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. You're going to get all the tools, all the insight, and everything for only $10 a month. We are about to hit an 11-fight week stretch. The next 11 Saturdays have fights. So this $10 gets you 4 events worth of the optimizer, ownership projections, insight, and more. That's $2.50 a freaking event. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's go ahead and break down this card. How fast was that intro? 252. I think that's the best intro, or at least the fastest I've ever done. And if it doesn't work, we're going to make it longer. Let's go ahead and break down this card. We do have 13 fights opening up the UFC Vegas 85 card. We got Tommy Petersen taking on Jamal Pogues. No data here. He's a Contender Series guy, but he is a wrestler. He's going to come forward. His striking is well below average. It's pretty abysmal, actually. But he's got good body locks, good takedowns, and when he gets you to the ground, he's got pressure, he's got ground and pound, he will grind, and he will work from there. DraftKings loves takedowns, loves control time, loves grappling. When we talk about FanDuel, that's not as grapple heavy. DraftKings, very grapple heavy when you're building lineups. I think $8,700, a good price point for a guy that we know can get takedowns, rack up control, potentially a finish. He's taking on Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues, the UFC veteran in this situation, 1-1 in the UFC officially. He is coming off that loss to Mick Parkin. Typically, Jamal Pogues is a busy heavyweight. He'll throw a bunch of strikes. He'll stay in your face. Pretty well-rounded, pretty decent. He doesn't really have that big one-punch heavyweight knockout power that you'd like to see, but he's usually busy enough that it doesn't matter. He beat Josh Parisian in an official UFC debut, and then they put him up against Mick Parkin. They wanted Mick to get a win, and Mick did get a win. Jamal did not look like himself in that fight. He was uncharacteristically sloppy. His poor takedown attempts didn't get it going. I think this is a little bit more of the same. I think the UFC is like, let's give him another prospect, and if the prospect wins, great. And that's what they're doing here. I think Thomas Petersen's probably worth that money at $8,700 because of how DraftKings points work with the takedowns, with the control time. Then we have another UFC debut, Marquel Mederos. No stats here. He's also a Contender Series guy, but I love Marquel. $8,500 is an interesting price point because he's primarily a striker. He's a very good striker. He'll string together combinations. He will throw things in volume. He's very comfortable in his fights. He's very composed. I'm going to say a young guy. He's not actually young. He's like mid-30s or early 30s. But young in his MMA career, he's very composed. Far more composed than somebody you would expect with, a handful of fights, if you will. He does have very, very good takedown defense. You shoot a takedown on him, he stuffs the head, he works his hips, he turns it into his own takedown, and he ends up on top. He made a splash on the Contender Series with a big knockout win over a much larger Isakov. He is taking on Landon Quinones. Only one fight in the UFC, and this was short notice. You're going to see, oh, he lost to Nazrat. Well, that was a good fight, and he had a lot of success in that fight. A, he showcased how tough he is. B, he lit up Nazrat's legs. Just absolutely chopped that tree down. And this was a short notice step up against one of the tougher, more established guys in the division, and he looked very good in this fight. Problem is, I don't think he's going to win the fight against Marquel Mederos. I think Marquel's a much better striker. I think he'll control the striking range. I think he'll touch up Landon, make that all work for him. He's going to come forward, beat him up. I don't know if Landon's going to have that same leg kick success, and if Landon tries to shoot some takedowns, I'm very positive Marquel will stuff them, potentially end up on top. Markel's going to be the pick, but I don't know if I'm going to have him in my lineup because $8,500, you're going to need a finish for that money, and while that's an affordable price point, I don't know if he's going to finish Landon. Landon showed us how tough he is, so I'm probably going to leave Marquel out of my lineup, even though I'm very confident in him to win. This is the trickiest fight of the night, if you will. We have Julija Stoliarenko taking on Luana Carolina. Julija Stoliarenko is not good, okay? Let's walk through. 0-4 to start off her UFC career. Then she beat Jessica Rose Clark after Jessica dropped her ass. Jessica dropped her, threw up a Hail Mary submission, got it done. Then Chelsea Chandler beats the shit out of her, and then she beats Molly McCann after going down in weight. The reality is Molly McCann's the worst grappler on the planet. The worst. And the reason I'm being so aggressive here is if you look at the betting odds, Julija Stoliarenko has become like a medium-sized favorite. And I get it. If the only fight you had ever seen is this Molly McCann fight, I get it. But let's not forget these other fights. Obviously, Julia Vila is not bad. Alexis Davis is not bad. So those are quality losses, but she gets her ass kicked. If she doesn't have a Hail Mary submission, she doesn't have anything to offer. That's all she has, are submissions off of her back. Or potentially on top if she gets the takedown. Takedowns kind of suck, but that's all she has. And I'm being aggressive because she's a trap. With that being said, this is DraftKings. This is not betting. If you're watching this video and you don't do DraftKings Fantasy, just know there is a wild distinction between putting somebody in your DraftKings lineup and trusting them with your real life money in a bet. And I'm going to caveat that. I'm putting that out there because while Julija Stoliarenko sucks, she's fighting Luana Carolina. Luana Carolina, it does not suck. She is the better fighter in this matchup, and she's got some quality wins. She beat Priscilla Kuchera. And yes, we just watched Priscilla Kuchera get her brains bashed in, but Priscilla Kuchera is tough and dangerous. She beat Patello. She beat Lupi Godinez. And yeah, Lupi stepped up on short notice, weight class, whatever. It doesn't matter. Luana Carolina beat Lupi Godinez. Luana Carolina beat UFC prospect Ivana Petrovic. And Luana Carolina is the better fighter in this matchup. It's not even close. The only reason I would consider putting Julia in my lineup is because Luana Carolina gets taken down. She was taken down twice in her last fight, twice in the fight before that, twice in the fight before that, and twice in the fight before that. In her last 4 fights, she's been taken down a total of 8 times. If Julija Stoliarenko is this new beast at this new weight class, she should be able to get the takedown and get it done. I would never spend real life money on Julija Stoliarenko, ever. But if I'm looking at a DraftKings lineup and she's $8,200, she might be worth it. I think Luana Carolina should probably be in a few of your large tournament entry lineups. If you can enter 150 lineups, if you can enter 30 lineups, I would have a few with with Julia, because I think if she wins, she'll win by finish. If Luana wins, it'll be a decision and she will not score well. If Julia wins, it'll be by submission and she will score well. And you should definitely look at that $8,200 a little objectively, but do not bet on her in real life. I did it like that for the deaf people that may be watching. You can read the lips because listen, I'm looking out for everybody. Then we have a Jeong Lee taking on Blake Bilder. This is an interesting fight. And Jeong Lee is interesting because he is 10-1 in his career. He's a very good striker. Very well-rounded guy. And he's coming off his first UFC win, a decision win over Yiza. It was a dicey win, and I don't know if people watched it to its core because he was taken down 5 times. He gave up 8 minutes of control time, and he managed to squeak out a split decision. And it's because his striking is good. He's got a loose style. He manages range really well, solid takedowns, solid grappling offensively. He is long for the division, and he uses his length well just by walking you down and keeping you on the end of his punches. He can be a dangerous striker, but he can be taken down. He was taken down 5 times. He gave up 8 minutes of control time, and that matters because he's fighting Blake Bilder. Blake Bilder is a nonstop grappler. I know he can strike, and he's very busy with his striking, but he will shoot when he gets the opportunity to shoot. He will explode into positions. He will shoot blast doubles. And when he's on the ground, he is aggressive. He's looking for stuff. He's trying to make stuff happen. If Blake Bilder can control himself, shoot takedowns that are well-timed that he sets up with strikes, he could absolutely win this fight. Blake Bilder's a very good grappler. Blake Bilder can strike as well. He's got a loose style, but he is hittable. This Kyle Nelson loss was a tough loss because he was a big favorite here. You'll see $9,000 in DraftKings. He was a big favorite, and he just got shut down in the wrestling. He went 0 for 3 in takedown attempts, so he couldn't get it to the ground. And he was just a wild step behind in the striking. You'll see the control time. That was just looking for takedowns. I think Blake Bilder wins this fight. I just feel like Jeong Lee's a little bit of an overhyped guy who's been smashing regional people. And I do think Blake Bilder is very good. And I think this loss is good for him. It was an embarrassing loss. To lose when you're that big of a favorite, I mean, I imagine you go home with your head down and you're just like, what the hell? I was supposed to win that fight. And hopefully he made adjustments. Blake Bilder's going to be the pick here, $7,900. I would have preferred a larger discount than that, but I still think Blake Bilder's going to get it done. And you could see this is where he was in his UFC debut. In his UFC debut, $7,900. Put up a ton of significant strikes, only got 1 takedown, but that's against Shane Young. And I think Shane Young is also better than Jeong Lee. So this might be bias against some of these regional guys that show up with phenomenal records and then lose. Because, yes, Jeong Lee just won in the UFC, but it was against another regional guy. So until we see international success, and not that Blake Bilder's had a ton of international success, but he does have a larger body of work against opponents with much better records than Jeong Lee does. So I'm going to go Blake Bilder here, $7,900, I think is a price point that should be considered. Then we got Themba Gorimbo and Pete Rodriguez. I'll tell you right now, don't spend $9,200 on Themba Gorimbo. Don't do that. Don't do that. And yes, he did just put up 114 points against Takashi Sato because he had takedowns. He had reversals. And this fight might look exactly like that, and he might score those kind of points. My biggest issue with Themba Gorimbo is while he is very talented, he's sort of a distance striker who's going to manage range, and he's going to use that long reach, and then he's going to work in some takedowns. He's typically a counter striker, but when he has the opening, he will shoot a takedown. He will get it to the ground. Solid offensive takedowns. We saw those in the Takashi Sato fight where he had those 3 takedowns. He put up 11 minutes of control time. But if we look at the AJ Fletcher fight, yes, he had some success with the takedowns there as well. And then obviously AJ Fletcher caught him and submitted him. And maybe I'm being a little harsh with the $9,200 because if he can get this wrestling going, he can make it happen. Obviously, we saw 114 points in his last fight. My only concern here is I think he's going to be way more hesitant than usual in this fight. I don't think he's going to come right at him like he did with Sato and immediately get those takedowns in control time. I think he's going to be on the outside a little bit longer, taking his time a little bit longer because he is fighting Pete Rodriguez. And while Pete Rodriguez, I also think is sort of a regional guy, all the criticisms that I just had for Jeong Lee, I have for Pete Rodriguez. I think he's a regional guy. And yeah, he's got some power in his hands and he's connected a few times, but I think he's a regional guy. He has not proven himself to be on any real national stage here. He's missed weight he has more missed weight fights in the UFC than he does wins. Okay, that's who we're dealing with here. That's how unprofessional Pete Rodriguez is. He's going up in weight. He's fighting a much better, more technical guy, but Pete Rodriguez has power in his hands. He will bomb away. A technical striker will beat him every time. Check Del Madalena had no issues. But he will bomb away. He does have power in his hands. I do think Themba's going to win this fight. And the reason I'm a little hesitant with that $9,200, maybe he should be in your lineup. Maybe I'm wrong. The reason I'm hesitant with the $9,200 is I think he's going to be a little bit of afraid of Pete Rodriguez's power. And I don't know if he's going to be all in on the wrestling as early, meaning he should be, but I think he's going to stay on the outside, do the distance striking, sort of low volume, patient kind of guy, because he doesn't want to close the distance and get cracked. He will get takedowns. We haven't really seen Pete on the ground yet, so we don't know how capable he is or isn't. So maybe you should throw Themba in your lineup at $9,200. I'm probably going to leave it alone. I don't know if he's going to cover that money. And if you have 150 lineups in a large tournament where you're trying to win $100,000, definitely have a little bit of exposure to Pete. I mean, the guy hits like a freight train, and he may connect, especially up a weight class. Maybe cutting weight was why he's so bad. Then we have Azat Maksum and Charles Johnson. This is another fight where I'm not going to spend the money. $8,900. If I have to choose between Azat Maksum and Themba Gorimbo at their price points, I'm going Themba. Azat Maksum at $8,900. Yes, he's very good. He's very talented. He's one of the better signings the UFC had in 2023, at least as far as skills are concerned. He's fast. He's dangerous. Well-rounded guy. He can pick you apart. He can land big power. He can out-grapple you. We've seen him on the regional scene, at least, beat every single style of fighter. He's 17-0, and there's some quality wins in there. But in this fight against Tyson Nam, you're going to see he got 2 takedowns. He went 2 for 11. 2 for 11. He tried 11. He only got 2. He missed 9 takedowns. And he had 2 takedowns and only racked up 22 seconds of control time. His wrestling was either very exposed or Tyson Nam's a much better wrestler than we know. It's one of those two things, and we will find out in this fight because I think he's going to need to wrestle to win. He's fighting Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson is a busy striker. He's got good technical striking. And yeah, he's on a 3-fight skid, and the O'Day fight was a split decision. He could have won this fight. This is a fight that he should have won, frankly, because, all right, he's not going to beat Cody Durden, who landed 195 takedowns. He's not going to beat Rafael Estevam, who landed 195 takedowns. He's not going to beat Muhammad Makayev, who landed 195 takedowns. He did beat Zumagulov. He did knock out Jimmy Flick. The O'Day fight is where I think it started to unravel for Charles Johnson, because everybody's like, well, he's a busy striker. He's technical. He's good. He's very well-rounded. And then he showed up against O'Day, and he wasn't as busy as he should have been. He was backing up. He ended up getting taken down. And I think the bubble of Charles Johnson was burst. Because, again, UFC debut, Muhammad Makayev got taken down 100 times. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. Then Zalgas fight wasn't great. Making excuses, that wasn't great. Knocked out Jimmy Flick. It's like, okay, all right. And now he's on this 3-fight skid. So Charles Johnson, I think, is the better striker in this matchup. And I think he absolutely 100% can win this fight if it stays on its feet. He has been taken down many, many times, but these are very good wrestlers who have taken him down. He's not getting taken down by nobody. Very good wrestlers are taking him down. I think there's too many questions here. We don't know how good Azat's wrestling actually is. We don't know what Charles Johnson is going to look like when he's fighting somebody that he can strike with for a meaningful period of time. So I'm going to leave both of these guys out of my lineups. If Charles wins, he's never worth the money. Obviously, he knocked out Jimmy Flick, but Jimmy Flick literally might be the worst fighter on the UFC. Literally. Sorry, Jimmy. And then in Zalgas Zumagulov, that was a close win. Barely put up real points in a meaningful win. So I'm not going to have Charles Johnson in my lineup, and I'm certainly not going to have $8,900 Azat Maksum, because even though I think Azat wins this fight and he may get his wrestling going and have a million takedown, there's just too much risk there to waste that kind of money in your lineup, because Charles Johnson is very tough. He's not a guy you're just going to get out of there. So Azat's not going to finish him, and Azat's going to need to wrestle big time to get it done. Then we have Molly McCann taking on Diana Belbita. This is a rematch. Let's scroll our way down to the first time they fought. And that's right here. She put up 109 points because she had 5 takedowns and almost 5 minutes of control time. Molly McCann, as we know, is sort of a slugger. I mean, she's actually a decently technical striker, but she's aggressive. She wants to be in the pocket. She wants to fight dirty. The only real finishes she had were these incredible spinning back elbow knockouts over Luana Carolina and Hannah Goldie. And then since then, sub by Erin Blanchfield, that's credible. Sub by Julija Stoliarenko almost instantly. $9,400 favorite. submitted in like 8 seconds. Her ground game is embarrassing. Takedown defense, embarrassing. Submission awareness, embarrassing. But she is tough. She does hit hard, and she has worked her way down a weight class. This original fight was very different than what it is today. That was 2019. It is 2024. About 3.5 years later. She's taking on Diana Belbita. Diana Belbita is not going to be a world champion anytime soon. Right? UFC debut, she lost to Molly McCann. Then lost to Jo Jua. She beat Hannah Goldie, but who hasn't? Lost to Gloria DePaula, credible loss. Beat Oliveira. This was a good win. That's when it was like, oh shit, is Diana good? Had very good striking, worked in a takedown. She looked good in that fight. She also looked good in the Carolina loss. She went 2 for 2 on takedowns, had a reversal, landed a bunch of strikes, and she lost against Karolina Kovacevic, who's one of the better fighters in the division and has been for a long period of time. At one point, Carolina was fighting for a title, and now she's had this career resurrection. So I think this is a close fight. I think this fight is a lot different than people are going to assume. I think people think Molly's going to come in, shoot a million takedowns, and do that all over again. But Diana has have noticeably improved takedown defense and takedown offense. I think Molly probably wins this fight. She literally already has. I think she's going to hit harder. I think she stays in Diana's face. And Diana, I think, has 1 foot out the door. She literally said, I thought I was done with fighting. So I think Molly McCann is going to win. But if we didn't learn our lesson, $9,300. If we didn't learn our lesson from the last time Molly McCann was $9,000+, when the hell are you going to learn that lesson? Molly McCann's not going to be in my lineup, although I do think she wins. I don't think it's going to be the wild grapple-heavy win that it was last time. And without all those takedowns, she's not going to put up any sort of meaningful numbers. Gilbert Urbina, Charlie Radtke. Another tricky fight. I think Gilbert Urbina wins this fight. I would have preferred a discount here. I would have preferred a discount because Gilbert Urbina, while his offensive wrestling is impressive, took down Brian Battle twice, took down Orion Kosei twice, has a finish against Orion Kosei. He's a busy guy. He's going to stay in your face. He's going to come forward. Busy, busy, busy. His takedown defense kind of sucks. And that is a little bit of a problem. He is landing 6 significant strikes per minute. He does shoot takedowns. He does have plenty of cardio. I mean, if this wasn't the greatest value on that card, $7,800 price point put up 126 points because he had 2 takedowns, a knockdown, and ultimately the finish. So Gilbert Urbina looked great in his last fight. He is fighting Charlie Radtke. Charlie Radtke is the guy that yelled the F word on the microphone, and not the F word that we can say in the channel, the other F word that you can't say. He beat Blood Diamond by hanging on the leg. 10 minutes and 41 seconds with 1 takedown. That tells you he was just leaning on him against the cage. And that's what that fight was. Now, he did eat some massive Blood Diamond or Mike Mathetha shots. He ate them. And he is tough. But Charlie Radtke did slow down. That was short notice, other side of the world, I get it. But he did slow down. Charlie Radtke is interesting because I think if he is offensive with the wrestling and the takedowns are a little better than what he tried against Mike Mathetha, he can win this. He can sneak out this win. But I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. Even if he has a little bit of early success, Gilbert Urbina has a pace on him, and I think he's just going to pressure pace. Charlie will slow down. It may be a 2-1 kind of fight for Gilbert. This has Fight of the Night written all over it. 2 busy athletic grapplers who will just stay busy, work for takedowns. This could be a really fun fight. I think the winner of this fight does score well because I think the winner of this fight is going to execute well on a grappling game plan. I personally like Gilbert Urbina, but $9,000 is a really tough price point to throw in your lineup. I don't know if I have that kind of confidence in him because I'm one of the few people that think this fight goes the distance. That's a plus money bet if you like it, but I don't know if Gilbert's going to cover that $9,000 salary, but he may. And certainly he puts up points in his wins. So that's definitely if you have the room, throw it in there. Then we have another interesting fight. He talking about wet blanket wrestlers. Khizriev, I think he will be in my lineup because he is a wet blanket wrestler. He will just shoot takedowns and lay on top of you. And if he could work in a submission, he'll do that as well. That's what this guy is. He's a hyped Dagestani prospect. He fights exactly the way you expect a Dagestani with no mustache and a full beard to fight. He's going to come forward, throw wild bombs on his feet, and shoot takedowns relentlessly. He is a relentless grappler. If there's a submission there, he'll take it. He's much more aggressive with his submissions than some of the other relentless grapplers. He comes forward, he sets a pace, he gets it to the ground, he works for a submission. He does have good cardio, but he does slow down. It's a weird dynamic where you can visibly see him slowing down, but he's still working, still making it happen. He's not stopping and then caving in on himself. He's taking on Makhmud Muradov. Muradov is very good. The loss to Meerschaert was a bit pathetic. The loss to Caio Borralho was actually a good loss. Some people think he won that fight. And what was impressive in that fight is he got his own takedowns. He had a reversal. His submission defense was on point. He looked good in that fight. And Caio Borralho is big. Caio Borralho is a very good grappler. Caio Borralho is a better jiu-jitsu grappler than Khizriev is. Not the better wrestler, though. Makhmud Muradov is a good boxer. He's got nice kicks, solid fundamentals, clean striking, a good striking differential. He's hitting his opponents far more than he is hit. Decent wrestling offense, good wrestling takedown defense. Submission defense is the shining star, other than the embarrassing loss. I say embarrassing because I just don't think Jeremy Meerschaert's that good. Obviously, he's dangerous with the grappling, but outside of that, the chin is... I think Khizriev wins this fight. I think Khizriev is probably worth the money. If you're on the Muradov side, which there are a lot of you on the Muradov side, throw him in your lineup. $7,400. He does well, even in his losses. Like, obviously, the Meerschaert loss is a bit not that well, but 42 points in the Borralho loss is not terrible. If they gave him that decision, he would have scored 72 points, and that would have covered his salary, just sort of dead even, which is not bad for a guy that was just getting shot on over and over and over. The Bryan Barberena fight, we saw the offensive wrestling. He had 13 takedowns. And while that sounds impressive, that means he has no control whatsoever, and Bryan was just standing up on him. But Makhmud Muradov, decent underdog, but I'm going to go Khizriev, and that's mostly because of how DraftKings scores fights and how you rack up points with takedowns, with control, and that's just who Khizriev is. Then we have Natalia Silva, Viviane Araújo. You're going to get a conflicting statement from me. Natalia Silva is my most confident pick on this card. Natalia Silva will not be in my lineup. She's just not worth the money. Even in her 2 finishes, she only covered her salary once. If she was $9,500 and she knocked out Viviane Araújo the same way that she did Belbita, wouldn't have covered her salary, I'd be disappointed. She only covered this salary one single time, and that was the very early knockout over Victoria Leonardo. Other than that, she's a very good, very technical fighter who has great takedown defense, good takedown offense, phenomenal footwork, very technical striking. She will win this fight, and she's going to win this fight putting up a pretty trash DraftKings number, especially at this salary. The DraftKings salaries are based off of the betting odds. They basically are like, she's a massive favorite, biggest favorite on this card. She should be the most expensive fighter in DraftKings. There's not a direct correlation between their salary and how points are scored. Meaning, she's going to win this fight. She likely wins by decision. It's going to be a point fight match where she's on the outside, land, successful, 30-27. You won the fight. But she didn't put up a lot of points because that's not how points are scored. She's taking on Viviane Araújo. Viviane Araújo is very good and very dangerous. Viviane Araújo can drag you to the ground. She hits very hard. She's a dangerous fighter, the more dangerous fighter in this matchup. Very good grappler who can get you to the ground and put you in some trouble. The reality is, I don't think she's going to get close enough to get this to the ground. And if she does, Natalia Silva's takedown defense is too good. Viviane Araújo hits very, very hard. She's very athletic. I don't think that's going to matter. I think Natalia Silva's footwork is too good. And Viviane Araújo has some cardio issues. I think she'll slow down late, and Natalia Silva's going to point fight her way to a victory. I don't even think Viviane's worth a shot at the $6,700. Hopefully, I am not wrong. Natalia Silva is my most confident pick on this card. Featured fight of the evening, Randy Brown, Muslim Salakov. $9,100 for Randall Brown? No. Let's look at all of his wins. He beat Wellington Turman pretty handily, 73 points. Beat Trinaldo, 71. Williams, 70. Gooden, 77. He only ever covered this number 2 times. One time was against Oliveira, a quick sub, and then the other time we have to go back to 2019, Bryan Barberena. Oh, one more time, Camozzi in 2016. He's just not that guy. I think he wins this fight. I'm very confident in him to win this fight. As long as he doesn't play stupid games. There are times where he plays games, he does this nonsense, and then he gets cracked or makes some mistakes. Oh, I'm Randy Brown. Makes a mistake, gets in some trouble. He's not worth $9,100 because he is fighting a very tough a very durable, a very seasoned Muslim Salikhov. Muslim Salikhov, at one point in time, could have been that guy. Very athletic striker, busy striker. He really can make stuff happen. He's very athletic. He hits hard as hell. He's got good wrestling when he needs it, and he holds nothing back. Every single strike that he throws is a significant strike. But he is 40 years old, and he is absolutely slowing down. If Randy was a little more dangerous, then I'd have my life savings on Randy. The problem is Randy's not dangerous. He's going to pick, shot, almost like the Natalia Silva fight. Just pick his shots, stay in the outside, stay out of danger. Win, I think, a pretty straightforward decision. But for DraftKings, straightforward striking decisions aren't worth the money. Co-main event, Renato Moicano and Drew Dober. Pick your side. One of these two gentlemen should absolutely be in your lineup, without question. Because if Renato Moicano wins, it is going to be a submission. If Drew Dober wins, it's going to be a knockout. And obviously, we had a fight like that at UFC 297 where it was not supposed to go the distance, and it ended up going the distance, and it was a back-and-forth war. I don't think that's this. I think Renato Moicano either comes forward, establishes that he's the more technical striker, gets a takedown, and finishes Drew Dober, or strikes a little too long and gets caught. And that's who Renato Moicano is. He's a technical striker who has phenomenal grappling. Problem is, chin's a little suspect, and he's fighting Drew Dober. Drew Dober is not that guy to have a suspect chin with. Drew Dober hits like an absolute freight train. His chin is very solid. Obviously, Matt Frevola knocked him out, or TKO'd him. People are just... I said he put him down cold. I think I said he knocked him out cold, which he didn't knock him out cold, but he dropped that dude bad. And some guy's like, as soon as you said that, I turned off. Well, you took a little time to leave a comment. Anyway, he was knocked out. The chin, a little chink in the armor there. We saw that chink in the armor with the Terrence McKinney fight as well. Terrence dropped his ass, but he recovered, and then he put Terrence out of there. Point being, Drew Dober is a very dangerous striker. I still think his chin is there. I still think it's there. Despite the Frevola knockout, I think his chin is there. And as long as his chin is there, I think he's good. Because he has this uncanny ability to bait you into a war. People land. They have success striking with him. And then they're like, what the hell? I don't need to shoot a takedown. Look at that. Look how well. Boom. Done. That's what happened with Bobby Green. Bobby Green was having some success striking, landing, cleaner. And then second round, Drew Dober, crack. Got it done. I personally think Drew Dober wins. But it's not a hill I'm going to die on because he could absolutely lose this fight. But you should 100% pick your side because whoever wins this fight will score very, very well. And then we have the main event of the evening, Nasruddin Imavov taking on Roman Dolidze. Nasruddin Imavov, $8,600. This 5-round fight against Sean Strickland, he lost. He put up 50 points. If they gave him 30 more points, it'd be 81 points. Didn't cover his salary. The only time he covered his salary was against Shabazian, Heinisch. Both of these guys get finished. Phil Hawes beat him. And then that Williams debut, 74 points. And the reason his scoring is so low, and obviously these are all 3-round fights except the Strickland one, it's because Nasruddin Imavov is not especially dangerous. He's a technical striker who can work in takedowns when he needs. But he doesn't have big one-punch knockout power. He doesn't have wild submissions. And yes, he finished Shabazi and he finished Heinisch, but these are guys that can get finished. He's fighting Roman Dolidze, who has established himself as tough as shit. The reason I don't think he's going to necessarily be worth the $8,600 is because Nasruddin Imavov is not going to want to grapple here. He's not going to want to wrestle. Because he's fighting Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze is a world champion grappler, and not like a nerdy one. A very legitimate world champion grappler whose skills work inside the cage. It's not a Paul Craig situation. And Paul Craig's got a ton of wins, I get it. But you see what I'm saying. He's not pulling guard. He will stand there. He will throw his fists at your face. He will bomb away. And if it happens to end up on the ground, because you'll notice only couple of fights early in his career that he worked takedowns. Dawkins knocked out with knees. Hawes, he was taken down, immediately had Hawes' knees facing the wrong direction. Hermanson, he was taken down, immediately had Hermanson in a calf slicer and TKO'd his ass. Point being, I don't think Nasruddin Imavov is especially excited to be on the ground with Roman Dolidze, which means it'll be a striking match on the outside. Roman has proven time and time again how tough he is. He's proven he's got a chin. He's proven he's got guts. He's proven he's got power in his hands. He's proven he's got jiu-jitsu. I think Nasruddin wins this fight because Roman has also proven his game plans suck. This Marvin Vettori fight, he attempted one single takedown. He should have been shooting nonstop takedowns. A lot of people think he won this fight. I don't. And it's because he just kept coming forward and not having the same success striking that Vettori had. Either way, I think Nasruddin wins this fight on a boring stay on the outside pot shot type decision. I might have Roman in my lineup as an underdog because if he wins, he will score big points. And I trust him to be durable. I think it will go 5 rounds. And even if Roman's getting touched up on the outside, he put up 29 points. Let's say he put up 10 points a round. You add 2 more to it, 2 more rounds because it's a 5-round fight. That's a 50-point underdog loss. I'll take that. So I think Roman will be in my lineup. $7,600, a nice price point for a guy as dangerous and as tough as him. Guys, that is the breakdown. Become a premium member. Unlock the lineup optimizer. This, as I mentioned, will build lineups for you. It'll build 150 lineups for you. It'll be preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game, and you can use those tools and more to win the astonishing amounts of money that the rest of the premium member community has won. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 a month, and we're going to get 4 events this month. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. Good luck this weekend.